We've just crossed over from the theatre and temple. You just have to cross this road, and there is a pedestrian crossing there, which is good. And we're just going to have a walk through the nearby St Michael's Church. And Pamela was commenting that probably, we don't know, but probably all the walls and so on, they've all been, it's all built from stone, probably pilfered from the Roman remains at some point in the past anyway. And that's what it looks like. It's all this similar sort of flint. And even the church looks like it.
Yeah,
it might well, even the church looks like it. It might, I don't know, but it might well have been built from stone from the site. Again, it's recycled, yes. And as in most churchyards, at least in England, there are some evergreens. There's a blackbird singing somewhere. So the church stands quite close to where the Roman temple was, or one of the temples in the Roman city. So we'll have a little look in if we're allowed. St Michael's, open for you, an ancient place of prayer, the probable site of St Albans' trial. Art and architecture across a millennium. So Alban is usually credited as the first English or British Christian martyr. So the city is named after Alban. As you walk into the church from the heat outside, there's that lovely coolness, wonderful coolness hits you. We've just had a few moments enjoying the peace and quiet in here. It's lovely and cool. Peaceful, very peaceful. Very holy, I think, very spiritual. And there's a comment which we've read that probably, if this was indeed the site of Alban's trial, St Albans' trial, when this was part of the Roman city, then this is arguably, one of the first places in England of Christian activity. One of the first examples of that in about, I don't know when that was, we'd have to check, 200, 300 AD. So it has that sort of meaning hidden away that works its way through to the here and now. And Pamela's pointed out that almost certainly there are signs here of an older building which has been remodelled, added to, expanded over time. I quite like the simple white, the very white decoration, or really the absence of decoration. There's one or two memorials and some older, possibly older pieces of architecture. Moving on from the St Michael's Church, we come through to, well, behind me is the museum building, which we'll leave for another day. And there's a panel here just talking about Verulamium, so the Roman name for St Albans, and suggesting we're standing in the heart of the Roman town, which for four centuries was an urban centre of great importance. So we're just going to have a stroll through the park, see what other Roman remains and items we find and just continue to enjoy the good weather. So we've walked from the Roman theatre. This is the area we're exploring, in the workshops here on Watling Street, and then we're going to walk through and just wander around this area here, find the Roman Wall and the London Gate and the Hypercourse, perhaps see what else we find. I know we said we were going to do some exploring, but before we do that, it's tea and ice cream first. There we go, look at that.
It's lovely.
Is that good?
It's very nice.
And what did you go for? Rum and raisin?
Rum and raisin ice
Rum
cream.
and raisin? That's not bad, is it?
Superb.
We're continuing our wandering around the park in St Albans. We had a nice cup of tea. Pam had a rum and raisin ice cream. And we're continuing our little adventure. And we were just chatting while we had our refreshments that it's unusual, St Albans, in the sense that the Roman city, or what was the Roman city or Roman town, it has largely been left untouched, not built on. So this whole park that we're walking through is really the Roman town, or where the Roman town was. Whereas in other cities like York, the Roman city sort of carried on in existence and was taken over by the local people. And if you take York, then the Vikings and then the Normans, and it was all, the Roman city of York is underneath the succeeding urban layers of urban development, whereas in St Albans it's left just as parkland, and the newer city is beyond it. So it makes for an interesting area for, just for exploring. So we're going to try and find the Hypercourse and the museum, but we're just in the middle of the park, really. There's the lake to our left, and the tower of St Albans Abbey and Cathedral through the trees. That's a lovely image, lovely sight through there. And then up ahead of us I can see the remains of the Roman wall, and I'm sure we'll find the Hypercourse, and there might be a mosaic to see. We'll find that at some point, I'm sure. Well, we found the Hypercourse and mosaic, but the building itself is closed. Pamela's having a good peer through.
Yeah.
I think we're slightly too late. It was perhaps open earlier. I don't know whether I can. Oh wow, yeah, that is impressive.
Yeah.
I'll zoom in a bit closer. We'll see how this comes out, but it's I'll take my word for it. It's a wonderfully preserved mosaic floor. And sadly the information board here has gone, so it's a blank as to what this was. But I suppose we've got a recreation of part of the a Roman wall, and these
areas, well, maybe that's where they were expecting
the
house to continue.
Yes, maybe this marks out the continuation. But it's a good view across to the Abbey, the Cathedral Church, just away across the park. And again, it's a lovely day. The beautiful variety of trees in the foreground, or the centre ground, and the Abbey behind. And there's still plenty of people about enjoying the fact it's been a lovely day.
Down the path this time.
Yeah, walk down the path. Yeah, it's a good idea. I think the first time I visited St Albans was after it had been a big church event down at the Albert Hall in London, and the church I was with, we were travelling back by coach. It was about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock time, and we booked in at a restaurant in St Albans on the way back to Peterborough for a meal. And we all booked in and seats and tables reserved. But when we got there, and we emerged from the coach and walked along the main street to the restaurant, which might even have been a Golden Egg. Do you remember Golden Eggs? Golden Egg restaurants?
Yes.
It might have been a Golden Egg restaurant. They were not able to seat us at the restaurant. We were going to have to wait because the coach party from a neighbouring church, St Mark's Church, the people from that church were in there, and they'd in effect taken our seats and tables. They'd not booked in, they'd not reserved, but they'd been allowed in, and they were sitting there eating. And I remember me and my mum, my gran, part of the St Barnabas and St Mary's contingent. I can remember us standing outside. I mean, this was October, November time, on this dark street, looking in the lighted windows of the Golden Egg and seeing there's my friend David and his mum and auntie, and they were tucking into their meals and they gave us a little wave, and it was one of the they looked so pleased with themselves and so smug. And I think Gran and I and Mum, we went off to a nearby pub on the basis that, for two reasons. My Gran couldn't stand around for long. She was in her 70s then, I think, and also needed to go to the ladies. So we went off to a neighbouring pub and got ourselves a drink, and then were required to, the organiser of our trip suddenly came in and chased us out saying, "Come on, what are you doing? Your table's ready, you've got to get in there, So we hastily finished drinks, and there was an exchange of words, and what had been a very sort of Christian, God-fearing event was all rapidly deteriorating into to very bad and discourteous behaviour. But anyway, we did get our meal eventually, but we were late eating and therefore late getting home. So I think after that, I didn't come back to St Albans for another sort of 10 or 15 years, I think that was enough to put me off. So that's my little story. And part of the original Roman wall. We think that this is part of the Roman protective wall for the city, or the Roman town, rather than a building. I think this is it's marked on the map as part of the Roman wall. So little bits of it remain, and beyond it the lake, and then the cathedral up on the slightly higher ground beyond that, or the abbey, St Albans Abbey and the cathedral. Let's go down the rampart.
Go down the rampart.
Yeah, so this is the Roman wall, and we're obviously descending what used to be the embankment, the ramparts, and that gives you a sense of the scale of it, perhaps. Yeah, there's two grey lakes, a pair of grey lakes here, look. They're usually quite feisty birds, feisty geese. Well, they've got some goslings. Their goslings are up there, look. Grey-lag goslings are up that way.
Oh, that's lovely.
There we go. There's the grey-lag goslings up there, look. There they are.
They're grazing.
They've learned how to graze. Let's see if we can get a bit nearer without spooking the adult birds. Hello, goslings. Yeah, having a good tuck in, enjoying themselves. So it refers here to Verulamium's herons. The island before you is a very special home for one of the UK's largest and most distinctive birds, the grey heron. These magnificent creatures with their long spindly legs and graceful wings are generally shy, solitary creatures, but not so in Verulamium Park. Throughout the year, it is common to spot several heron lined up on the banks of the island, silently poised, waiting to spear a tasty meal with their pointed beaks. There's a coot here with its young. So the adult bird is diving down and finding something for the young coots to consume. So Pamela's just spotted, we thought it was a herring coming into land. It's actually an egret, or several egrets up in the tree. Looks like they've got a nest. There's quite a few up there. They've got a nest or something up there. They're doing a little bit of fighting, and there they go. We just spotted another egret here, and there's one in the tree. These might be the two that were driven off from the herons. Now possibly these are great egrets. They look big, don't they? Yeah. There's one up in the tree. And eventually, several hours after we planned it, we found the Olde Fighting Cocks. So, reputed to have accommodated Oliver Cromwell for one night during the Civil War, stabling his horse in what is now thought to be the bar area. The underground tunnels of the inn providing useful bolt holes in troubled times. So, quite a phase. It's been closed for a while. We know it's been closed for a while and reopened, I think, only just recently. So, Olde Fighting Cocks, reputably one of the oldest pubs in Britain, and features in an Inspector Morse episode, and I'll see if I can remember which one that is, and I'll put that on the screen, because although most of the Morse pubs are in Oxfordshire, they also filmed elsewhere when it suited them. So there's one or two scenes filmed here. So we're going to walk up towards the Abbey and the Cathedral. So yes. The sign here tells us, climb this hill and walk in the footsteps of Alban, Britain's first saint. He was executed by the Romans for his Christian faith around the year 300. He was buried on this hillside where the cathedral now stands, the oldest site of continuous Christian worship in the country. The huge church was once part of England's leading abbeys, or abbey systems. For centuries, the monks welcomed pilgrims who came to pray at the shrines of St Albans and St Amphibolus, the Christian priests whose life Alban saved. The cathedral still welcomes pilgrims and visitors from across the world today. So there we go. And it's a decent hill, isn't it? It is. Decent climb. I think the story of Alban is that Alban was actually a Roman citizen, or at least he was a local man of some authority, and he protected or saved Amphibolus, the Christian priest, protected him from the Romans, and I think he was given the choice of either giving up Amphibolus to the Romans or being executed in his place, and Alban chose to be executed himself rather than give up Amphibolus, hence his martyrdom. So I think that's the story, something along those lines. I think that's correct. Oh, that's magnificent. It's a decent climb up the hill. We're getting.
I remember that from the other side.
Yes, we saw the other side of that.
Yes.
So that's the part of the gateway. I think that's the London Gate. That's called the London Gate, I think.
It's just closed, unfortunately. Closed at 5:30.
Yeah.
It's 5:30.
The Abbey Church again it's a lovely mixture of different things. this mixture of stone again, isn't there?
Yeah.
Looks like reclaimed Roman stone. And then it's almost the local, well, different ages of what I would call London brick, which was, the clay was certainly, well, the bricks were made in Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire, so it's certainly possible. So a very elaborate screen beyond this altar here within the nave, and then the choir, or the original choir, and the high altar is beyond all of this, and the north and south transept are beyond all of this. The ceiling is unpainted mostly, unlike Peterborough Cathedral. So there's the west window above the west end. Again, after